I really don't know how to do an intro for this video. If you were on the internet anywhere in the mid 2000s to early 2010s, then you've probably seen artwork from a very specific artist known as Bleed Man. And let me tell you, there are a lot of different series that this guy has made. Powerpuff Girls D, Sugar Bits, and the subject of this video, Grim Tales from Down Below. A bizarre and very strange fan comic based off of the grim adventures of Billy and Mandy. And let me tell you something, there's no sane way to explain this comic, as no matter what I say, it keeps getting stranger. The comic has a bunch of dark and weird themes in it, and continues to get more and more messed up as it keeps going places you just wouldn't expect it to go. Oh yeah, I should mention that the main characters of the comic are the children of Grim and Mandy from the Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy. I'm not even gonna try to explain that one, and I just hope you actually have enough knowledge of the show to understand why that's kind of weird. The two main characters, of course, being Grim Jr. and Mini Mandy, or Minnie for short. Yeah, a lot of characters share names, so it's going to be kind of confusing going forward. But I feel like the best way to explain what this comic actually is to just get into it. The first issue starts out with Grim Jr. taking Minnie or Mini Mandy to pick flowers somewhere in the underworld, or I can only really assume it's the underworld, before they are immediately attacked by some sort of demonic creature. And then, literally just 2 pages into this crazy comic, fucking Spawn shows up. Yes, literal Todd McFarlane Spawn. Al Simmons himself shows up. You know what, at this point in time, the comic actually started to get really cool. But then, out of nowhere, it basically turns into a flashback. In fact, most of the comic is a flashback. But before all that can start, we get one big monologue from Grim Jr., where he reveals that Minnie didn't always used to look like this, and that they weren't always this close until 3 days ago, Halloween. We're then immediately introduced to the original version of Mandy all grown up, alongside Grim. And already, certain alarm bells should obviously be going off, cause what the fuck is going on here? Outside of the obvious, how did they even have kids? It's during this flashback that we finally get to explore the world of Halloween Town. Yes, the one from the Nightmare Before Fucking Christmas. It's revealed to us that somehow Jack Skellington is Grim and Minnie's uncle, which I assume makes him Grim's brother. Basically, they're all meeting up to celebrate Halloween, and we end up getting several pages dedicated entirely to just showing off certain characters from The Nightmare Before Halloween in Bleed Man's pretty iconic style, I'll say. Somehow, every single line of This Is Halloween manages to make its way into the comic as well, which that's one thing you have to give Bleed Man. When he likes something, he'll just put it in the comic. He won't even find a way to, trickle it in. He'll just put it in. Also, if there's one thing you can't criticize Grim Tales for, it's the artwork. I mean, this looks absolutely beautiful, and you know it too. It's here where we get a further explanation of what Mini Mandy and Grim Jr.'s relationship was like prior to what we had seen in their introduction, where it's made clear to us that Grim Jr. sees Minnie as more of a show-off than anything else, and that she's treated significantly better than him by everybody surrounding them. Junior basically just does his own thing at this point in the comic, but then Sally from The Nightmare Before Christmas can obviously tell that he's sad. And of course, Grim Jr. being the bratty, crazy kid that he is, he kind of goes a little too far with it, falling around and then embarrassing himself, even losing his head. Minnie offers to help him, but of course they get into a spat over this and start arguing. Junior, of course, runs off. He somehow ends up running into the trick-or-treaters, who, I guess, abduct him. Of course, they make it very clear to him, though, that they aren't intending to hurt him. In fact, they give him snacks and even ask him if he wants to join them. Turns out they kind of feel bad for what happened to him. But it turns out that they do want a couple questions to be answered first, specifically about his family and his father, the Grim Reaper. We get an explanation that Grim Jr.'s past was never directly explained to him, including how his parents met and even how he came to be specifically, especially considering his mom is a human and his dad is clearly Bones. But apparently that was all answered by this mysterious book that he found. This book being Grimm's original diary. Throughout this diary, we're shown how this all supposedly came to be. Apparently, despite being forced to serve Billy and Mandy, for all those years, Grim eventually became infatuated and even fell in love with Mandy. Yes, the literal Grim Reaper fell in love with Mandy. You know, this wouldn't be all that problematic if not for, well, the obvious.
Well, I was actually coming out here to pick up a cupcake and then go back home.
In fact, he seemed to enjoy his time with the two quite a bit, so much so that he avoided reaping their souls even when their time was inevitably going to run out. What makes it even more uncomfortable is that Grim still constantly dogs on Billy, but seems to feel very differently towards Mandy. This essentially leads to Mandy forcing Grim to show her hourglass, which has been empty for quite a bit of time, meaning the only reason she's still alive is because Grim has simply refused to reap her soul.
I be a man of me word. We said friends forever. Well, I didn't mean it then, but I mean it now.
I can't do a Jamaican accent. You're deaf and you're letting a 10-year-old run your life. What makes it even more insane is when she starts mocking him for not having the guts to kill her, before going in the other room and slicing her own freaking throat open. Of course, Mandy doesn't end up dying from this. Turns out she's immortal now. Apparently, in this world, characters basically don't die if Grim simply refuses to reap their souls. We then see Mandy in some new clothes telling Grim he's basically free to go now, and that the original deal they made back in the original show is no longer on the table. And while she's saying this, I swear to God, she literally has a poster of fucking Adolf Hitler in the background. Fucking Hitler. And you know what? This sort of imagery doesn't go away after this. It only gets worse. Maybe I should have put a fucking trigger warning in the beginning of this video, but like... One of the supposed reasons for her letting Grim go is that she feels like he can't be himself around her. Now you might ask, how would Billy feel about this, considering the fact that he was equally involved in the deal that made Grim their servant? This is basically all explained away by Billy being so stupid that he just forgets. First, by mistaking a broom with a cloak on it for the literal Grim Reaper, and then eventually just forgetting about him altogether. Eventually, when Billy's time is finally up, he does actually die. And because he's so stupid, he's basically considered sinless and he's immediately sent to heaven. But eventually, he's so annoying that even the saints lose patience with him and kick him out, where he's then sent to purgatory. But the demons learn to fear him because of how annoying he is. As for Mandy, she never really took advantage of her temporary immortality, which honestly was probably for the best. It's explained that she exploited Erwin for a while until his time was up. So this book immediately kills off Erwin, so that I guess the Grim relationship would make sense. Like, yeah, Billy and Mandy were never gonna get together, but this seems like it was supposed to be canon.
Hey, little lady. I see you met my wife, yo.
Also, I don't know what exploit means in this context. And how did he die? Most people don't die super young. And yeah, the comic gets somehow even weirder after this point. At some point, Mandy basically starts a fascist organization and successfully takes over. Straight up Yahtzee imagery and everything. Mandy leading armies, and for some reason there's Yogi Bear, Dora, Diego, Boots, and even a Teletubby doing a Heek Style. We get a couple other cameos around this point in the comic. The Nasty Burger, Megas XLR. Oh my god, Megas XLR. Okay, believe man. I appreciate that one. That one's a deep cut. Although I'm pretty sure it was still on the air when this comic came out, so probably not as much of a deep cut as I would like it to be. At this point in time, Mandy becomes quite, let's say, powerful. I don't think she's an overlord or anything, but it's not super clear. But the Grim Reaper finally reappears, but in a way you probably weren't expecting. Apparently, he's been posing as this man named Joe Black for quite a bit of time. And yeah, I find it funny how Grim's human form is white, just like in the show, even though he's clearly a Jamaican man. I don't know if this is a decision that Bleed Man made before that episode came out, but considering the fact that the creator, Maxwell Lord, very much intended for Grim to be black once the Jamaican voice was added, and the only reason that Grim was ever made white after the fact was because of how weird it would look for a couple of white kids to have a black man serving them and basically being their slave for life. But considering this is a comic that straight up references Hitler and other stuff you will see come up later, that just seems like a weird thing. The only real hint that this is even Grim to begin with is the fact that his accent keeps slipping. He tries to propose to Mandy, but she straight up rejects him, leading to him losing it and revealing himself as the Grim Reaper, where it's explained that he's been in love with her the entire time because she makes him a worse person. And then we get another flashback where we see that at some point in time, both Billy and Mandy took up the mantle of the Grim Reaper to show Grim just how easy it was. And here is where we get the reveal that Mandy was the one who caused 9/11, all to inspire Grim to embrace his darker nature. And then, for no reason at all, we get a bunch of Holocaust imagery. Like, what does this have to do with anything? And the implications here are just like absolutely messed up. Eventually, Mandy does end up accepting Grim's proposal, but with the caveat that she hates children. Then we get one of the weirdest explanations as to how Grim Jr. came to be. We get a literal panel of Grim waiting outside of a freaking abortion clinic, wondering if he's gonna have a daughter or have a son. The comic goes as far as to explain that all aborted and unborn children somehow belong to Grim. Then we cut away to Grim Jr. talking about how Mandy is apparently better at everything than he is, before he's hit over the head by Oogie Boogie. Yep, for the one from The Nightmare Before Christmas. After that, the story basically focuses on Minnie or something. We learned that she's actually a demon spawn, referred to as a featherless angel. Then we return to Junior's story, who's still jealous and bitter. Now, you might ask yourself, what would be Oogie Boogie's motivation here for kidnapping Grim Jr.? I promise you're not going to expect where this is going. Apparently, he used to be the host of Jeopardy. Yes, that Jeopardy. He ran it under Grim's authority for years or something. But after Grim left, Oogie's career completely collapsed. And then years later, or I guess now, he is bored and wants to learn how reaping powers work. So he wants to tear apart Grim Jr. and become a Reaper because he's bored. Bruh, I told you this comic was unhinged. Minnie then shows up with a demonic bow and arrow. And then we get right into chapter 3, which is basically dedicated to being one long fight between all of Oogie's goons. Oh my god, I can't believe they said that. And Minnie. I gotta say, honestly, these panels are pretty well drawn. Like, it's pretty good. Although I have to say something that I probably should have said earlier. He has a way of just putting a bunch of text on screen, and it becomes pretty daunting because a lot of it is like so small. You kind of have to like zoom in. And it's just too many words in one panel. After Minnie quite literally saves his life, he's still very ungrateful and jealous of her demon powers now. Oogie, using the power of the Pumpkinator from the frickin' Fairly Odd Parents, manages to capture her again, and then he proceeds to tear her limb for limb to the point where she's super dismembered and stuff, but still alive. She then proceeds to rip her own freaking eyeball out and give it to Grim Jr. The eyeball allows him to communicate with Nurgle, who explains that Mandy is a specific kind of demon and has chosen Jr. as the new host. This gives him a bunch of powers, but also a lot of her memories, which leads him to finally realize she did actually care about him a lot, and that all his hatred for her was actually simply in vain. He accepts all these cool powers, and yeah, the panel for this transformation looks amazing. You already know this picture was people's wallpapers. It was plastered on them Nightcore videos. Now, you would think that this would lead to some like cool epic fight between Grim Jr. and Oogie Boogie, but no, some other guy shows up. Turns out Minnie is dead. Yeah, dead. And this dude's here to collect her soul. He's like, bro, you didn't even like her when she was alive. And he's kind of put on the spot because, like, you are kind of an asshole if you don't allow somebody to go to heaven, right? This leads to something kind of weird where we basically get a three-way fusion between the demon, Grim Jr., and the Pumpkinator, which is a sentence I never thought I would say. And that's the end of chapter 3. But by the time we get to chapter 4, this whole thing somehow turns into a Danny Phantom fan comic, as it basically opens up with Dark Danny and Clockwork talking. Dark Danny is that version of Danny Phantom for the future, who's like a fusion between Vlad Plasmius and Danny Phantom from like 40 years in the... Okay, yeah, there's so much lore here. They're just taken from all these different franchises. It's not very important right now. Apparently, Clockwork needs Dark Danny's help to destroy the newly emerged Pumpkinator Nurgle Demon Grim fusion. There's some kind of deal they strike, but we never really find out what it is. We cut back to Halloween Town, where the Pumpkinator is straight up just destroying everything. The only 3 individuals who even stand a chance against him, or it, being Mandy, Grim, and Jack Skellington. We get to see this whole army of people as well who are just basically cannon fodder. They summon a beast which like immediately gets obliterated, but then Dark Danny shows up to the fight. And we get quite literally one of the most aura farming panels I think I've ever seen in my entire life. And I swear to God, he says, "Who's your daddy?" Yeah, I can't tell if this is supposed to be serious or not. You know, this comic at times reads like a shit post. Or like something some 7 to 13-year-old kid wrote on DeviantArt. But the art here is like way too good looking, and it was made by a 26-year-old man. And this takes itself way too seriously and has way too much work put into it to simply be a shitpost. But to get back to this panel, I mean, this random guy, Dark Danny, Grim, Mandy, and Jack Skellington all in one panel, I mean, this is dope. Clockwork explains in detail that the only real way to retrieve Grim Jr. is by going inside of the Pumpkinator and dragging him out. Inside, Grim ends up confronting Nurgle, where it's revealed to us that there was some sort of affair between him and Mandy, and somehow this led to the existence of either Grim Jr. or Minnie.
Okay, so like one thing I need to like really clarify is that it's actually Nurgle Jr. who has the kid, aka Nurgle's son. Yeah, really confusing, I know, right? Again, that's a thing from the actual show, but there's so many names being shared between these characters that it's like, yeah. I mean, I knew this when I wrote the script, but I feel like I didn't really clarify that. So yeah, don't mind my audio quality either. You know, I'm totally not going through a fucking zombie apocalypse.
It's also revealed to us again that all aborted and miscarried children are technically Grims. I still don't understand why this is something they're so obsessed with. Apparently, Nurgle doesn't like Grim because of the abortion birth situation. Oh my god, I can't even mess with this. As Nurgle views it as murdering a child before they get the chance to live. I don't even know if this is a pro-life take or what. After the big fight, though, Grim Jr. does end up getting a new form. When they escape the Pumpkinator, though, the art style suddenly changes. Grim leaves the Pumpkinator with Jr.'s body, but somehow he doesn't come out the other side, and neither does Clockwork. He's the only one who actually somehow made it out. The Pumpkinator returns stronger than ever. Dark Danny can't even do anything to stop him. And just when you think another cool fight is gonna happen, comic cuts away to Grim Jr., who's in the middle of nowhere because of something Clockwork did, because Clockwork wanted him to be there. I don't know. And that's just how chapter 4 ends, I guess. Although we get the reveal that apparently that angel guy from earlier tried to take Minnie's soul up to heaven, but it was stolen by this character with claw hands who's like a teenage girl. I promise to God, you don't even want to know what this character is. You remember watching the Powerpuff Girls, right? You remember him? Yeah, right? Right, him? And you remember Blossom, right? Okay, yeah, I don't, I have no words. This is somehow infinitely worse than the Mandy Reaper stuff for some reason. Like, Mandy was already a sick, demented soul. I don't even care. But this? Oh no. Either way, there's probably 5 other places I could have ended this video where I probably would have left you guys on more of a cliffhanger, but this series has like 30 chapters, the last of which being written in I think 2023. Mind you, the first one was written in 2004, so I think it's best to split this into more than one video if this gets enough likes. Also, I might do a video on Powerpuff Girls D, which is also a video I've been planning for quite a bit of time. That being kind of the start of this whole universe. Anyways, guys, if you liked the video, remember to like and subscribe. I'm gonna go do flower in the bathroom.